find ways to help yourself experience progress.
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Reshape Your Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan Nolte. I hope your new year is off to a wonderful start. I know this interview is really going to pump you up and keep you motivated to continue with whatever New Year's resolutions or goals you have going on. Our guest today is Melissa Vogel. She's the owner of Melissa Vogel Fitness, LLC, with over 20 years of experience as a certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor. She created Busy to Bomb, Fit Mom to help busy moms achieve fitness through mindset, nutrition, and exercise. As the host of the top-rated Bomb Mom podcast, she explores diverse health topics, inspiring listeners to achieve their goals. Melissa is also a motivational speaker, author of the Bomb Mom recipe book. She's a model, actress, and a busy mom of 3 daughters. We were talking offline how we could probably talk all day because we are living this bomb mom, fit mom lifestyle and being good examples for our kids. And it's such a passion of mine because y'all know, like, I really believe that the health of the mother is so important for the health of the children, mentally, physically, emotionally, all of it's so important. So Melissa, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. Well, let's get started. When we were talking about how do we want to structure the interview to add the most value to listeners, you thought a really good starting place would be to talk about why failure, quote unquote, is underrated. So can you explain why you think failure is underrated?
It is. Especially women, we are so hard on ourselves. And the two things that pop up the most when we feel like we failed is that guilt and like the shame. And we're like, God, another thing, or well, if I do this, then that means that happens and everyone watched me, and like that guilt and shame takes over. And people don't realize, and I think it's because we're not taught either, when we're young, that like, no, that failure of whatever you feel that it was, that's a stepping stone to your success. But most people fail and they just like, oh, that didn't work out. I failed another thing. I tried it and that wasn't for me, whether that's in the gym or with your nutrition or with anything, with your job, with anything. But that was collecting data. That's how I'm always telling my clients and my kids, like, that's collecting data of what didn't work. And when you can look at how you failed, what went wrong, that's like the golden ticket to succeed. That's the way to move forward. And if women just applied that more to their health and fitness journey, oh my God, you could become unstoppable with that information. But people,
Yeah, I love the Gap in the Gain book. Have you read that one?
I haven't.
It's a good one. I mean, it's a very simple concept, but I thought the book did a nice job going deeper into it. And there's a quote in there that I love. There's 2 actually. It's like goals are not just meant for achieving, they're meant for learning. And then I think it's in that book where they say there's only learning and growing. There's really not, or there's only succeeding and learning. So there's a lot of different ways that you can say that. So that's why I said quote unquote failure, because I think that word has such a negative connotation. Like you said, like we are so wired to think about failure, and then we have that layered emotion of guilt or shame. And if we just remove, like get a little lobotomy and remove that failure word from our mind, it's like you're growing or you're learning, and that's it. Then it doesn't have that negative connotation because learning and growing is automatically associated with positive feeling emotions.
Right.
So it's very similar to a growth mindset, but a little bit more strategic in how we approach, counting our gains, counting every single little thing, every quote unquote failure as a gain, because we learned something from it or we grew from it. So you would absolutely love that book. It's right up your alley.
Oh, dude, I wrote it down. I wrote it down. I haven't read that one yet, but that's one of my first questions too, of when I'm bringing on, especially if I'm working with like a new client, I'm like, what have you tried in the past? What didn't work? Like, tell me all the times that you failed before. And they're like, well, why? It didn't work. And I'm like, no. This is going to give me really good information of how your body responded to things or where your mindset was at that time. Maybe you were in a really dark place when you were attempting to do something else, or, whatever. And even with my kids, when they're like, oh my God, I had a terrible practice and this happened. And I'm like, no, now you know what not to do. Now you know how to grow and get better for your next game or your next practice or another friendship. It can just be applied to so many different areas of life. But God, no one teaches us this. Like,
No.
no one's talking about these basic fundamental things, because life is nothing but falling on your face, right? Like, life is nothing but learning and growing and succeeding and then failing and taking 4 steps backwards. That's life.
Yeah, I love the quote, like, failure is the price of success. Nobody who is successful has not failed repeatedly, did not stink at the beginning of whatever they were doing. I love going back and like watching old videos that I've done or like looking at old PDFs that I created. I'm like,
Oh, they're
this was
hilarious.
terrible and good for me for like, good for me for trying. I think that this is important to go into this mindset part of it because so many people struggle for years and decades in the majority of their life with this diet mindset that they're never good enough. They're always going to have a weight problem.
Mhm.
They're always going to have health problems. It's almost like they're resigned to their own mindset, to their own limitations. And I'd really be interested to know of the listeners, of the population at large, how many New Year's resolutions were made around mindset versus specific actions? So, can you
Mhm.
talk about the importance of why mindset is so important to lead to the consistent actions that ultimately get us the results that we're looking for?
Yeah. Well, people do it backwards, right? They're always like, I just need this activity to get me to hit my goal. And no one talks about, no, 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 no. It has to start like top down, right? Like, this is what has to get in place first. And people don't realize that. And people don't realize as well, like, when we get when we put on weight, when we get stuck in ruts, when we become this person and we look in the mirror and we're like, I don't even know who I am anymore, right? And they know they want to transform. They know they want to do things. They don't realize that they've also developed this identity, and they have formed this identity to being this person, and they're like, oh well, I'm just, they don't say it out loud, but it's like back here, right? I'm just this overweight mom. I've had a couple kids, I used to play sports, I used to do those things. I'm a taxi now, and I do this, and I work, and I come home, and I do this. There's no time for me. And they don't realize like how much that's an identity. And in order to make a physical difference, you have to start in the head and really start identifying and changing that, and becoming no, I'm a strong mom. I'm independent. I'm capable. I'm whatever you want that to look like. And that has to start up here first, because if your brain doesn't believe what you're after, your body will never follow suit. I am always saying, this isn't a Melissa Vogel quote at all, but the brain is the general and the body is the soldiers. And whatever that brain and that mindset is, the body's going to just follow suit. So if you're constantly saying, God, I'm so tired, or I plateau at this weight, or I'm always late, or I can never remember a name, like whatever that programming is, the body listens and goes, okay, got it, boss. Hey, we're plateauing at 162 pounds. And the body's like, okay, we can't do anything. Her back hurts. Remember, guys? Okay. And it's so funny because I explain this to my kids too. And my little one's always like, you make it sound like your body's a bunch of bodies. And I'm like, it is. It's the soldiers. It's just
Mm-hmm.
listening for what the general is going to tell you. And in the fitness world, and for how long I've been in this space, it's all of my training, all of the exposure I've had, and to other trainers and things that I've gone to all across the country. No one ever stopped and said, hey, when you're working with your clients, there has to be space and time and availability to really change their mindset around it. Because if the mind
Interesting.
doesn't believe, the body won't follow. And at first I was like, that's not true. We just needed to do more sets and reps. And that person's not lifting heavy enough. And, I was like, no way, until I plateaued myself and I got in the position and I'm going, it's not fair. What's wrong with me? I'm doing everything right. After that third kid, I'm like, why is my body plateauing? And I had no idea. Melissa, you weren't doing any mental work. You weren't doing any mindset work. And I was just stuck and hitting a wall continuously. And that's what really opened my mind up to even simple things like journaling. What's my self-talk? What affirmations am I looking at around my house? Do you even have a vision board? All of these things that sound so silly and just so like, ooh, she's got affirmations written down. Those are little keys. Those are like breadcrumbs that are going to lead you to success. But who was supposed to teach us this?
No one. And if we don't do that, then we kind of we're either going to get brainwashed by society or brainwashed by ourselves. And when we can, like, don't you think that especially going through motherhood, like that's a huge, huge identity shift. And there are so many messages around how we should show up as a mom. I think a lot of them are becoming a little bit more outdated. But I don't know about you, but like being a working mom is a hot topic for me. And being that martyr mom, I think that there's a
Yes.
lot of martyr moms out there who constantly feel like if they're not doing every single little thing for their kids, or they're not putting the needs of the wants of the kids above their own well-being, they're being a bad mom. And then the mom guilt just like piles on. So that was my default mom programming. And I had to say, well, how do I want to show up as a mom? How do I want to show up as a wife? How do I want to take care of myself? And it had to be an intentional like creation of my own mind, in my mind, because everything is created twice, right? First in your mind, then in reality. And I have some mindset practices that I do. One is just auto suggestion. I'm sure you teach this to your clients, where you're giving yourself the positive affirmations or the vision statement or whatever we want to call it every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, until that really changes your identity. And when your identity changes, guess what? Like your actions start to change more
Mm-hmm.
naturally. And I would love to hear some of your mindset techniques that you started to learn after your third child and that you teach to your clients, because my favorite is just developing like that personal wellness vision statement, reading it first thing in the morning, and then
Mm-hmm.
having very specific processes around action items and then capturing your wins for the day. Because I think women are so good at being in the gap, going back to the gap in the gain. Like, I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done, because our checklists are endless.
I know.
And so, if we're always focusing on what we didn't get done, we're not giving ourselves credit where credit is due. Because kids do not come out of the womb saying thanks mom. Like they come out of the room like crying and demanding things, and it takes them a very long time to learn that habit of gratitude. But man alive, it is a sacrificial thing that we're doing raising kids. So how do we develop mindset practices, and what tools do we have, do you teach to help moms finally start to make their well-being a high priority?
Yeah. And people have to know and be reminded that you have to put in the reps. And just like, if you're going to grow like a muscle, in order to grow that bicep, if you're curling, your arm, that takes repetition over and over again. That muscle did not develop overnight. And it's the same exact thing with the mindset and shifting your identity and being open to being someone different. That takes reps to change it, and tools to help you get there, right? So if you're going to grow that muscle, you need a barbell, you need a band, you need a resistance band, you need your body weight, like all these tools, right? And when you start off, it seems so impossible. And I just remind people, you haven't put in enough reps yet. And sometimes it's because you don't even know where to start. A lot of people don't even know,
Yeah.
how do I even start this journey? Or they're like, I'm a week in. Why don't I feel different? Why isn't anything happening yet? And I'm like, well, what reps did you put in yet? What have you done to create this change? Let's look at that. So that's why all the things that I'll talk about and list, that it's so important, because you have to look at it as it's just a rep. I'm doing this to achieve my ultimate goal, right? It's like habits. That's all it is just
Yeah.
daily habits of things. But I like to look at it more like a physical, like this is a rep type thing, because then people are like, oh yeah, I'm doing this over and over again. This is my rep. And all my clients are always like, I don't feel like it rep today. I showed up even though I don't feel like it. But remind yourself of that, and be very, very gentle with yourself when you are trying to have that shift and discover that self-love and that self-worth, that this will not happen overnight. And you
Mm-mm.
have to practice, truly, you have to practice being, acting, thinking, feeling like someone else. And because if I snap my fingers and you were in a whole different body, right, or lived a whole different life, many people would sit there and go, now what? I don't even know how to walk around in a crop top or jean shorts if that's your goal, or a bathing suit, and I put you in on a beach in a bikini. You'd be like, where's my towel? Cover me up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to be this person right now, right?
Yep.
And that's important to literally practice that. I have women that would never wear pants
Hmm.
before, ever.
Or do you mean
They,
shorts?
or I'm sorry, yeah,
Okay. I'm
shorts.
like, well, most people,
No,
I've heard
never
of
wear
shorts, never
pants.
wear pants.
Never put on pants before. Never wear shorts. And they had to slowly start letting that go, where no, I can wear some, maybe they're just longer, and then they get shorter and shorter, and then, oh my god, I was in a bathing suit this year, like never had I ever. But that was practice. I love taking my clients through. When we onboard clients, we spend a whole week on crafting your vision and like who you want to become. And believe it or not, that's really frustrating for some people.
It is. It's hard for some people. Like because they're so used to seeing their current reality
Hmm.
and they can't picture themselves any differently.
No, and people are in such a rush. We live in such an instant gratification world of like now. And they're like, I just want the secrets and the tools. Just tell me how to work out. Tell me what to do now. I don't want to do this vision board. I don't want to take a week of my life to see who I want to become. I just want to become her. And I'm like, that's the old you. That's the old you in your bus in the front seat driving it, and saying, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. You need to take her out of the driver's seat, put her in the back, and we're going to work on the new you to get into the driver's seat. And she'll keep jumping those seats. She'll keep trying to get in
Yeah.
to that driver's seat again. She'll just jump over one, and then you have to constantly remove her because she's so strong, right? That identity and that old mom, that old you is so familiar. But that vision week is so important because we create a vision board, and that is just for you. And it's so funny how sometimes I have to tell a mom to like go back, try again, because they put like their kids on there or things for the
Mm.
family, and I'm like, no, this is just for you. We will do a dream board that will include your family and all that fun stuff, but right now, just you. And that's hard. That's so hard for women to be like, what, just me? Like, well, my kids are part of me. I'm like, yes, they are, but you need an identity beyond them. And I have them put on there words, pictures. Um, if they do a body or an image, it's always got to be from behind. Like,
Oh, interesting.
I don't like, if you want to do more yoga, great. Find a picture of a woman doing yoga from behind,
Hmm.
because I don't want you to see someone else's face every day. I
Yeah.
want you to see them. And then we have them pin it up. Most of them put it in their bathroom,
Okay.
because that's a place that we're there like twice a day, right? At least we're in there twice a day, brushing our teeth or getting ready for the day or exiting. And that's been a huge thing for women. And when it gets old and I tell them it doesn't speak to you anymore, it's time to change it.
Yeah.
And it's okay to change it. Or women become, that's the cool part, is they achieve what they put on their vision board. And I'm like, that's basically you. That is your life. It's time to up the game, girl. Like, who's your new, we call it your person B, like who's your next person B. And then we're always taking dry erase markers too. We're writing on the mirror. And again, I love dry erase marker because it's not there permanently.
Yeah.
What are we focusing on today? What message do you need to speak to yourself today? What are you open to today? And that's what we're putting on vision board, and seeing different words like that. Oh my God. I feel like I could just talk for hours on
There's
all
so
the
many different
difference.
creative ways too. Like one of my roommates in PT school had a very positive self-image, and the backdrop of her computer was always some inspirational quote that she would kind of change out. So you can do that like with your
Oh,
computer
yeah.
backdrop, with your phone screen, post-its in the car. Like there's ways that you can reinforce this messaging. Like you can start in the bathroom and then you can take those reminders into the rest of your life too, which I think is
Mhm.
cool.
And I know it sounds cheesy. My kids, as soon as they had awareness, they were like, and even now my kids are like, oh my God, mom. And I'm like, girl, you've been growing up with me since you were a baby. Like, you know that we're gonna do this. And even sometimes when my kids are like they're having a hard day, my daughter was going into like a very important test and for like volleyball and stuff. And she just, but what if, all these fears were coming up. And I said, when that happens, I want you to write on your arm the word cancel. So when it comes up and you're there and you're dealing with it and your brain starts taking over and all those thoughts, I want you to look down and just be like, cancel, cancel those
Yeah.
thoughts, take them out of there. I'm not doing that. Oh my God, mom. And she's seen me write it before. And she came home and took off her sweatshirt. Sure enough, she had cancel written on the inside
Yeah.
of her arm. I didn't say anything. I didn't say, see, I knew you'd do it. Like I
Yeah.
told you so. Or I just left it there. But she had to remind herself, and that was a good way of like just another tool of visualization to see that's right, cancel, shut that inner chatter
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. So, what if women like create a vision board, but then it creates too much of a gap? Like, I'll never get there. That's not me.
Yeah. Oh, we've had that happen before a lot. And people realize if you have a woman that's over 200 pounds, right? And she's 5'5", and then she's putting this tiny little person on her vision board. She's like, that's who I want to become. That gap that happens so often.
Yeah.
And that's why we take people through this. That's why I'm there. I need to see it. They need guidance. Eyeballs need to be on it because your brain will never believe it.
Yeah.
That huge gap will create more, like you said, more problems than anything. And we have to realize too that like if you are built like a Saint Bernard, you will never become a poodle.
Yeah.
You can be a really fit Saint Bernard, but you'll never be a poodle. And I'm 5'9". I'm very broad up top. And that was no one told me that. I was always trying to be the poodle. And
Hmm.
I'm like, Melissa, you're not a poodle.
Yeah.
You're like a German Shepherd. You're not that. Stop trying to be that. And I just would continuously put a poodle, this little chihuahua, on my vision board. And that wasn't me. That is when you need to redirect yourself and you need to get closer to who you are to help your brain be open. Because you're right, you will get stuck and you'll never believe it. One of the biggest things that I like to tell women, it's not, I want to lose weight or I want $1 million or I will this. It's, I'm open to.
Hmm.
Make it being open because you reading, I'm open to living a healthier life, way more powerful and it'll have much more impact than I will lose 30 pounds
Yep.
and being open. So when you're building your vision board, take that guidance of like, what are you open to? What are you open to in this life? And that changed because then we had a lot more people putting on like paths. Like this woman last month, she put on this path and it was like down the forest road or whatever. And she's like, I'm open to walking more. I'm open to just being outside and walking more no matter what. Perfect.
Yeah.
You don't need
The
a
the
human.
language tweaks are very important, and you sometimes you have to like back off on the language a little bit instead of I'm a healthy person and act accordingly. It's again like I'm open to being a healthy person or I'm working towards being a healthy person. So I do believe that's so important to highlight that sometimes vision boards can backfire if
Yes.
the vision isn't believable for your mind. Um,
Right.
for me, I'm like achiever and learner are my number one and two strengths, always and forever. And so I can be placed in the gap by myself so easily. So vision boards have never been great for me because it's a way that I always place myself in the gap. Like, well, you're not there yet. You're not there yet. You're not there yet. So what I did was something a little bit different. I just did a gratitude board. So on this wall that I see all the time, I just have pictures of my family, pictures of my best friends, and then like little prayer cards for everybody.
Aw.
And that works better for me personally. So I think if somebody is listening to this and they're like, well, I've tried a vision board, it's like, try again. Maybe your vision board wasn't believable. Maybe a gratitude board would work better for your personality. But the point is to have positive, inspirational messaging and pictures and things around you so that you're not just like turning on the news or scrolling through TikTok or Instagram and being messaged to.
Mm-hmm.
We want to create that ourselves. So, vision boards in the bathroom, I love that idea. What are some other mindset tools that you give your clients and that you use yourself?
Automatic writing, or
Oh, tell
you
me
could
about
just
that.
call it journaling. Like I'm sure there's a ton of verbiage for it. I have this journal and I keep next to my bed and it's not really a journal. It's kind of more like my manifestation book. And I take pen to paper every single night and I just let it flow. Sometimes if I feel blocked and I'm stuck, it can just be like, this is where I'm feeling stuck, whatever. But the main point of that book and what I do most nights, because I want to have a path for myself. Like, I don't feel like doing this, so it's okay if I do this. I think it's always good to know that, like, you do have choices. You're never locked into one thing, no matter what we're discussing. But with this book, most nights, like 90% of the time, I am just letting my pen flow to whatever topic it wants of how I want my life to look like. I am laying in my bed and I'm overlooking the ocean and I have this amount of money flowing in. This is what my kids are doing, like any topic. And I just go down to like what I want my driveway to look like, to what type of refrigerator do I have now? How
Yeah.
many animals do I have? Like everything, exactly what I want my life to look like. And I speak it. That pen to paper coming from your brain to paper is so powerful. And then all of those thoughts that I have that I just came from my brain that I now put on paper, that is what I'm going to sleep to. That is my last thing. And I just fold it. I put it right on my nightstand. I don't get up and like turn on off the light. I have a little book light that clamps onto my book so I don't have to get out of bed. Everything's very like from that to sleep. And that is what I go to sleep with. I can't tell you how many things I have created in my life that I like automatic journaled about and or had up on my vision board. um but it's so easy. I've had a lot of women get stuck with journaling, like
Yeah.
writing down their thoughts and feelings, and the fear of like someone else reading it, or god, well, if I start saying that, then that becomes true, or if they're really having a hard time in life, they're like, I don't want to say that out loud. I don't want to bring it to life, and if I put it on
That makes
paper.
sense, right? It's kind of in the dark of their soul, but if they write
Yes.
it out, like it becomes more real and then they
Mhm.
have to deal with it.
This type of writing, it just flows differently, and it's okay that it doesn't exist yet, but it gets your mind and your body physically with the writing and the seeing. It's still a physical act. It gets it heading in the right direction. It's another tool for you to be going that way and to be heading in that direction and get you off the path. And I told them, like, I tell my clients, like, even if you feel like you're just full of shit, you're just writing things that are just like, I don't know, this could ever happen, it's okay. Just let it flow and let it come out. And it's become very fun for people. They're like, I actually look forward to doing this. It's really cool to craft my dreams and what I have here. And it's just there in my little book. No pressure. It just came out of my brain and my body to there. And then you can really dive into it more if you want. But it's a great way to just let it flow and really see what you want. A lot of people discover too, they're like, I had no idea I wanted this.
Yeah.
I had
I was
no
going to say
idea.
new thoughts come up when you're journaling that you just don't think about. It just taps into a different part of your brain. Like I always use journaling for the hard stuff. Like if I'm having a difficult time, if I feel like there's a mental block, I just write
Yes.
out very freestyle, kind of like what you were saying. This is how I'm feeling. This has been what's going on lately. And then always, always a new insight will come to me that didn't come to me before that I can't access through just thinking about it because our thoughts are like on little loops, and I think writing is a nice way to break up the loop of our current reality.
Yeah. Well, when you're going through that hard time and you get it on paper, and you get it all out, it's it's your failures, right? For me, I look back at old relationships or whatever what I was going through with my divorce, and I read where I was, and I'm like, oh my God. And I thought I was just in the pits of hell. I was at the lowest of low of my life. And I'm reading that going, I have really risen and rebuilt myself. And that's the only time it's okay to look back, right? That's the only time to
Right.
look back, to be able to see how far you've come.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I captured that pain. I truly am, to be able to see, like, wow, look at what you came from, girl. Like, look at what you did. And I used to read it and it'd be like embarrassing. Like, I can't believe that that was my life. And
No.
it helped me grow. But
Yeah.
looking at that really helped me see, like, no, that pain, that struggle got you to where you're at today.
it turned into a gain. Like that's, I think, yes, the reason to look back is to look at how far you've come,
Mhm.
essentially. So I love that. Okay, so we have the automatic journaling at night. Again, that auto suggestion, telling yourself who you want to be is most powerful, like right before bed and then right when you get up in the morning. Vision boards. Are there any other favorite tools that you have to elevate your mindset?
Okay, so if we're talking like weight loss and clothes and stuff like that, one of my favorite things is pulling out an outfit or even buying something that, again, not far-fetched, not like you're a
Yeah.
size, 18 and you pull a size 2 dress and it, out. Something realistic, something that's like tight right now that you just can't get those jeans on, but you could pull it out and clip them and hang them in your closet somewhere that you're going to see it. It's like a real life object vision board, and focus on that of like, that is my goal, that is where I'm going to be. I will put those on, and every now and then put them on and feel the struggle. No, memorize like, oh yeah, I couldn't get them up past this far. I have done this with so many people with their own physical clothes, and it is so cool to see them not be able to fit in anything still, and they're like, but I got it past my hips.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they're
Again,
like,
looking for the gain. It's like, okay, well, last time it got like 2 inches past my thigh, and now
yes.
it's halfway up my thigh.
And they're like, I don't even care that they don't fit yet, but you don't understand. I couldn't get them past my thighs, and now I'm got to past my hips. They're like, I can't button them at
Yeah.
all, but they're excited, right? And those wins, that that motivation, that like progress equals motivation. I think that's a Tony Robbins thing. That is not a Melissa Vogel thing. But like, it's so true. Like when you see a little bit of progress, boom, that motivates you. And that's what people are always asking too, is like, how do you stay
Yeah.
motivated, right? Find ways to help yourself experience progress. So anything physical that you can put out, that is tangible, that you can touch, that you can feel, but it's not a trigger for you. It's got to be something like, oh my
Right.
god, I'm so excited, and I've put out dresses before for like a big event that's coming, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be in that thing. I'm gonna put that on. Or even shoes. I've even done it with shoes. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of
Interesting.
dress will go with this.
Okay. Nice.
That, well, after baby 3, I'm like, my brain couldn't even comprehend being in a little black dress. But I'm like, I can put those heels out and we can be open to what
Yep.
goes on top.
Mine are my jeans. So I don't know if I have them anymore, but I had jean shorts from eighth grade. And those were always like my litmus test on, yeah, how am I
It's
doing?
funny how we
And
have those.
I don't know if I still have them, but I have other jean shorts that are now kind of the litmus test, and then just jeans in general. So postpartum, I always have that goal. My babies were June, May, and then this one's going to be April. So it's kind of like by football season, I want to be able to fit into my jeans again. And it's been, it's happened the last two, so I think it'll happen for this one too. And
Uh-huh.
I think let's talk about the timeline of goals too, because when we're talking about believability, I think one thing that we can adjust is the timeline. Like, well, do you believe that you can lose 50 pounds? I don't know. Well, how long are you telling your brain it's going to take you to lose the weight?
Right.
Well, I'd like to lose a pound a week or maybe a pound and a half a week. And I'm like, yeah, that seems a little bit of aggressive. Like I can see why you're having a hard time believing that goal. But what if we extend the time frame for that? Like what if you give yourself, do you think you could lose 50 pounds in 2 years? Well, yeah. So, do you ever talk about timeline modifications with your clients? And do you have any tips for thinking about time regarding goals? Because so often, like goals are supposed to be time bound, which I think adds some pressure for some personality types
Mm-hmm.
like myself. So, how do you work with your clients on time modification?
Yeah, when it comes to weight loss and that journey, we are constantly comparing it to the world we live in. Like I had mentioned instant gratification earlier, and we do that with our goals in our body. And then we are surrounded by things like, I don't know if you have them around you, they're like just rampant here. The camps, they're like called the camp, and they're like these boot camps, and it's six
No,
weeks.
but we might. I live in like rural Nebraska on a farm. I'm so far removed from civilization.
Girl, let me tell you about these camps.
I love it. Tell me about these scams.
Oh
Give
my
me
God.
the lowdown.
So they're 6 weeks, okay, and you join, and you hold a sign and you take a picture, like to start off, to like mark your journey or whatever, and you pay a very large chunk of money, and if you hit your goal at the end, you get that chunk of money back, or you can reinvest it into the next camp or series or whatever. And the goal is usually like 30 pounds, 40 pounds. It's a big goal, like that you have to hit in 6 weeks.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
insane.
That
They
gives me
get
anxiety just thinking about
I
it.
know. They give you a meal plan, and it's mostly tilapia and like asparagus. Um, and very, these like meals. And then you go to their classes and every day at 5 a.m., and stuff. So you take this woman, right, who hasn't done anything, has these high hopes. She's got 30 pounds to lose, right? And you throw her into this camp and she's moving now, right? She probably was going from doing nothing to moving. Yes, she's going to lose weight. Duh. Like you go from stagnant to activity, you're going to lose weight. And now she's in a massive caloric deficit and eating the same thing every single day. Again, duh, in the beginning, you're going to lose weight, right? And then you see these people after holding it up, and I lost 30 pounds in 6 weeks. It is so wrong. And people have literally called me like Mrs. Fix It, like for the camps and
That's
stuff,
funny.
because it messes with your head so much.
Absolutely.
You didn't learn anything. You were just told what to eat. And then women get off of this, and men do it too. And they're going, okay, well, now what do I eat?
Now what? The
I
diet's
didn't
over. I'm so glad the diet's over because I hated it, but now what?
Now what? Most of them binge.
Mm.
Most of them go out and they binge. Most people gain all that weight back, if not an extra 10 pounds after. Um, and what they just did to their body. And again, there was no learning, right? That timeline that we're talking about, if you're, I'm just 160 pounds, you have to learn how to be 155. Then you have to learn to be 150. 10 pounds down is huge, especially for a female.
And
And
especially like the last 10, 15,
yes,
especially like the last 10 pounds, like that's really dialing things in. And you're right. Like I think that you kind of are into like the vibrational frequency thing. Like there's a certain like set of habits and set of thoughts that you have to maintain a weight of 140 or
yes,
150 pounds. And just physically manipulating your weight down there doesn't do enough to change here. So that body weight may have dropped, but that mental set weight is still at 160 or 170 or 180, and you're always going to come back up to that
yep,
mental set weight.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it messes with that timeline. That 30 pounds, if they lost 30 pounds, in my mind, that should have taken 5 months, you
Yeah.
know, um, somewhere around there, months, not weeks, to give yourself a chance to learn how to do it the right way. How does my body respond to this food? What works, what doesn't work? How can I eat and sustain that way of eating for the rest of
Exactly.
my life?
You've got to sustain it. I'm like, so many people put way too much emphasis on the weight loss. And it's like you can lose weight in a zillion different ways, but there's only one way to lose it and keep it off. And that's really to change your lifestyle, which includes your mindset.
Yeah. Yes. And collecting data. Like I hate saying like counting calories, but I mean if we're just being real, you need to know what's going into your body. You need to know what you're consuming versus what you're burning. And you don't have to get crazy with it, and you can keep it very simple, but big picture, we need to know what works, because me consuming 2,200 calories a day, I'm just throwing fake numbers out because people will write it down and they'll be like, she
Yeah,
said she
right.
eats 2,200 a day.
Yeah. She's also 5'9", and let's look at her age or like her activity level, all these things.
Right. Right. If I'm doing that at 222 a day and that works amazing for me, up to a certain point, and then I start packing it on, like I might need to cut back a little. But I learned that because of what I collected on myself. And collecting data takes time.
Yep.
Knowing what works for you and what doesn't work for you, especially when we start throwing in our cycle with there,
Yeah.
and eating a certain way just before you have your period, huge. And no one talks about that. No one dives into the need of eating sweet potatoes before you menstruate,
Yeah,
like
and it does make you feel a lot better.
it
Just
does. And then you
upping the
don't,
carbs a little bit before your period really
yes.
helps.
And again, this takes time.
Yep.
And I'm constantly telling women, and that's why when I work with people, it's not about like, here's your meal plan. And again, that frustrates people. They're like, just tell me what to eat. No, you tell me what you eat. You you
Yeah, I
tell
like that.
me.
You tell me what you eat.
And
Because
let's see.
you can't just like like it's like I'm not going to tell you to eat tilapia and vegetables because that's not sustainable for you and we both know it and it's a waste of your time. So what's it better? I love it. I love how you're talking about like it's data
Mhm.
collection, guys. Like you got to run I always say you got to run your life like you run a business and businesses require data to know where are we at on things.
Yeah.
And I'm like the first person I hate tracking food. I think
I
it's such
know.
a great tool, a great educational tool, but you don't have to do it forever
No.
once you learn. So, what are some tips that you kind of have on like how do we get lean? How do we stay lean in a way that's really sustainable? That's not like this white knuckling diet, camp
Right.
approach.
Right. Yeah. And that's how you have to look at it. Like, is this going to help me lean out or is this just super healthy? Because I used to eat super healthy. My mom was very way ahead of her time. Like, I knew about hormones and like GMOs. Like, I knew about that when I was like 10. I was blessed. I had a lot of knowledge even as a kid watching my mom do this and stuff. And I ate super healthy. And then I had to learn after my last kid, I was like, that's not going to get me lean. That's not going to grow muscle. And what I mean was like a perfect example. Okay. When I would eat a healthy lunch with my kids, I mean, you better believe that that bread was organic and it was pure and my turkey had no nitrates in it. My romaine lettuce on it was organic. My mayo was organic. My chips, because that's what I'd had. I'd had this big turkey sandwich every day. I'd have like these organic chips, fruit. I'd have fruit on the
Yeah.
side, and that was a typical lunch, right? In the middle of the day.
Yeah.
That was super healthy. That meal sounds really healthy, right? Well, now my typical lunch will be an unwich,
Yeah.
which is massive butter lettuce with still good clean mayo, but I prefer mustard now. And with feta cheese on it and pickles. And that sucker is so freaking big. I can't even open my mouth to eat it. And I'm eating massive food, like a good amount of food to help me feel full at a lesser caloric intake, but I'm still getting my carbs and my fat and my protein. And when I started to learn this, like, how do I eat and build muscle but don't starve myself? I don't want to be
Right.
starving. And can I keep doing this? And the answer was yes, because when I'm taking out the bread and the carb, which again, carbs are not bad. We need carbs to live. That is our brain power. We need them to live life. But the timing of it and when I was eating it, and how much I ate it was huge in learning that. And I learned like, oh, I can still eat all the like the cheese and put that on it. Um, at a lesser caloric rate because I'm taking out and swapping for other things. And now my fruit, I love my berries. I love my strawberries and my blueberries. I'm always sticking to berries. And I try and time it with post workout. So after I work out, I go home and I consume a little bit more sugar and it's helping with the glycogen in my muscles and it's going right to that place. Or if I do want a carb or I do want that bread or rice, I'm eating it immediately after a workout. So eating to be lean just means to be eating smarter,
Yeah.
paying attention to certain things. How can I eat? Like when I have spaghetti night, this is a very big staple for Bob moms. Our spaghetti night, instead of having the pasta, we all steam broccoli or some type of veggie and we put that as our base with our meat and marinara and feta and sea salt all on the top. And you're just swapping things. You're not making a whole nother meal for yourself
Right.
while your family's eating spaghetti. You're just eating a little bit different and being a little bit smarter of how you do it. That's how you start cracking the code on your body. That's how you
Yep.
start saving in certain areas, but you're not starving.
No, because what you're swapping out, more refined carbs, even if they're organic, even if they're clean, you're getting from, fibrous vegetables, for example, that have a lot more like vitamins, minerals,
Yeah.
phytochemicals, more fiber. I mean, we eat very similarly, it sounds like. And like for spaghetti, I love spaghetti squash.
Yeah.
Um, a little tip for anybody who cares for that and then butternut squash is to microwave it for a couple minutes. Well, this is more butternut squash, I guess. Spaghetti squash, you just cut it. But if you want it easier to
Yes.
cut, you can microwave it. But butternut squash, especially, microwave it for a few minutes after you poke it. And then it's so much easier to like cut up and peel and whatnot. But there are such simple swaps that are higher in protein, lower in the refined carbohydrates, and then you're spot on like timing the carbohydrates around your workout. I wear a continuous glucose monitor, and 2 days ago I had an apple and peanut butter right before my workout, and my blood sugar maybe got into like it was less than 110, maybe 105.
Hmm.
Then yesterday I had the same snack, but then I sat on the couch and watched TV, and then it went up to 116, right? Like if you're having carbs, having them right after the workout, some people like before, that's going to allow your muscles to use the glucose. So it's not just like hanging out in your bloodstream. So great tips. I love all of these. I know that you have a more robust program opening up again soon. Do you want to talk about that for a little bit and tell people how they can learn more about you?
Yeah, yeah. The program is Busy to Bomb Fit Mom, and my website where you can go and get all information, even book a call. I'll do like a 10-minute, 15-minute discovery call with people to help them like just ask questions and see if this is even a fit because it's not a fit for everyone. It's www.itsmelissavogelfitness.com and you can go there and get all the information. But Busy to Bomb Fit Mom is a full program. We onboard people and we're onboarding soon having a new onboarding group. We onboard people for an entire month before you even start the program. And I always say it's like you build a car before you enter the race. So we
Yeah.
help them build their car before we put them in there with all the other women. And we drop in mentors in their onboarding group and everything to help get them more comfortable. But we take them through the 4 pillars, which is vision and knowing your why, nutrition, mindset, and then actual physical training exercise. And we take a week and really learn like how are we going to make adjustments. This is what we're opening your mind up to. This is how you're going to get prepared. These are the changes you're going to make with your nutrition. And then once you've fully completed that and you're feeling comfortable, women are like, let me in, instead of going, oh my God, I'm so scared, when are we starting? They're going, let me in. And then we put them in. We say, with like, now you're swimming with the sharks. Now
Yeah.
you're going in and you're swimming with the sharks. Because we call the groups the sit group. It's Sharks in Training. Sharks is my mascot for the group.
Cute.
And they go into the main group, and we are focusing completely on building that mindset, working through the challenges that are throwing at you while lifting weights, while making physical changes. And it's crazy how often you get like off track. And
Yeah.
we're there to pick you up and get you right back on, because that's how it all happens. One kid gets sick, the whole house gets the flu, someone gets lice or pink eye.
Yeah, life
The
happens, right? But we have to learn how to pivot and
yes,
adjust and come back to our like it's almost like you have to create a new center. Like
you do.
you do. It's that new identity, that new center that's just
Mm-hmm.
like no matter what's going on externally, I'm going to make my well-being a priority.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And that's why I created this, was because that's really hard to do. And I'm in there training every day. Like they see me live every day in my car, in the grocery store, in my bedroom crying. Like I show them the real struggles that I go through in life, which really helps them see like, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. If she's going through a hard time and still made it to the gym, like I know I can do that. We're very real and very raw. But our success rate is through the roof. And women get in there and they change and they create and they learn this new identity, and then they go on to the next phase. That could take months and that could take years.
Yeah.
And I love it. That's why we have like the OGs. We have women in the program that have been there for 2 or 3 years, and women that have been there for 2 or 3 months,
Yep.
and they help each other grow. So yeah, you can get all the information there. We have a new onboarding group opening up, and we don't onboard every month. We make sure that we have the right people, that the group is ready, everything's flowing, and then we open it and put them in and keep growing.
That's awesome. Well, big kudos to you. I think when we were talking earlier about like spaghetti and stuff, it just made me think about my kids and what a great example that we're able to set for our kids. We send our kids with their own lunch every day. And my son recently told me, he's like, you know, my other friends look at my food and they're like, ew, that doesn't look good. And I'm like,
Oh
well,
my God.
it's healthy and you like it. And that's what's important. So really helping our, like, reinforcing to ourselves that like it's okay if your choices look different than your friend choices, than your family member choices. We have to develop that own personal self-esteem and self-confidence that we can do it even if other people aren't. And I think starting a new program like yours, or we just wrapped up enrollment for our Zibly program, that's really important, just to like be your own biggest cheerleader. It's okay if not everybody in your life is doing the same thing. Like you get to be like the leader in the group. And I think that's so cool to see like what a healthy woman can inspire in her family and in her community. So
Hmm.
kudos to you for just how you're living your life and what you're doing to help women.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast that we could talk about, is outside influences and you growing and changing. That's hilarious that you say that about your child and their lunch, because
Oh
I do
yeah.
the same thing. They have like the stainless steel box, and I my daughter took these like power curl puffs today with like Himalayan salt, and she's like, everyone's going to ask me what those are, mom, and then they're going to try it and then they're all going to want one.
I know. And that's the thing. It's like healthy food tastes really good and it's so
Does.
good for our kids. And I think that's one of the best things we did for them was start them on real food as soon as
I
possible. Like
know.
we didn't do baby food like starting out, but like as soon as we could, they were eating real food. And that
Hmm.
my mom got me like a food grinder. She's like, "This is what we did for you when I was a kid." And I'm like, "Thanks, mom." Like, but then we actually did use it and found it very helpful.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Oh,
it was
I
good.
love that. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that be those beginning years, like my kids have never even had pop before. Like,
mine either. Yeah. Or
don't
video,
ever
like
do
mine
it.
haven't played video games yet. We had a friend over and they're like, "You haven't played a video game yet? You guys don't have iPads?" I'm like, "No." You know,
No,
it's just they
no,
don't need that stuff yet. There's enough screen time
I
as
know.
is. There's enough unhealthy food as is, and there's so many different challenges that moms face raising kids in a sugar-laden society, which again would be another show. Anyways,
I know.
I know I gotta wrap it up, but here I am opening up another can of worms.
No.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here. I really appreciated your time and expertise.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was amazing.
Thanks.